Hello, my name is Dr. Mari Riojas-Cortez, and I'm here with my colleagues, Lauren Chase and Dr. Annie White. And we would like to present our service learning project for academic year 2020-2021. And we title it Authentic Learning and Assessment, Partnering with Farm Worker Children and Families in a Virtual World. Issues that we encounter in our academic year 2020-2021 with COVID-19 included the need for fieldwork learning opportunities for our early childhood studies students. And then we also knew there was a need for learning opportunities for children in vulnerable communities. So we decided to reach out to the Center for Community Engagement to see if we could address these issues through service learning.
Partners that we worked with in the fall 2020 and spring 2021 were the Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation and the Oxnard Performing Arts Center.
We first began our service learning with our early childhood studies program in fall 2020. Lauren and I both taught a section of ECS 463, Creating and Supporting Reciprocal Family and Community Network courses. And we developed 5 weeks of STEAM learning, science, technology, engineering, arts, math, STEAM, virtual learning opportunities for our students to engage the children from the community, where they provided STEAM activities with materials that could be easily found in the home. There was 50 students enrolled in both courses, and they provided activities in small groups for the children from Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation and Oxnard's Performing Arts Center. Part of the way that our students were able to recruit the children from the community partners was developing promotional videos. So the students worked together in their groups and developed videos that were sent to the partners, who posted on their website and sent to the families to recruit the children. They also did PR recruitment for the children through Facebook event pages that were developed by our partners and posted on social media.
We knew that for our student teachers, we needed to enhance their learning opportunities and contextualize their experience into something that resembled what they will be seeing in the childcare settings or preschools. So we decided to create a virtual learning program called Los Pequeños Delfines, or the Little Dolphins program. And this program was based on 3 components. The first component focused on the use of culturally responsive children's literature in order for the children to see their culture reflected in their early literacy experiences. Within those experiences, we also wanted them to experience reading, writing, math, science, music, movement, and language interactions. The second component that we wanted them to participate in was the concept of circle time, which is something that happens in many preschool programs, and also read alouds, where children will have the opportunity to pick up their book and read their story aloud. And then the third component was our student teachers working intentionally in groups to plan and implement the learning opportunities during circle time.
So the flyer on the right is what we used to promote and to have our families register for our Little Dolphins program. So the flyer is in Spanish at the top, which is their home language, and English at the bottom. They would scan that QR code or click that link, and they were able to identify needs for their children, things that they were working on, reading, literature, and writing. We had 34 students between 2 sections of our courses, and we paired them into small groups. There was 18 bilingual students. We found this out by polling our students, and we strategically placed at least 1 to 2 bilingual students per group, and at least 1 to 2 students who had had previous virtual learning or virtual teaching experience. The materials and food ingredients were all purchased and provided for the families with funds provided by the Center for Community Engagement as well as university funds. And students would then prepare their virtual circle times, which they would work together and submit as a group. They would then submit. On the next slide, you will see what that looked like. So they would write out all the different components of their virtual circle time, including which nursery rhymes, music they would use, the lyrics, the links, the games that they would play, all the materials, whatever recipe they were doing, and all the details. So they had to write out everything that they would need. And we also had them write family letters to send home each week to the families.
These are some examples of our students engaging in the virtual experience. As you can see, they're teaching, they're writing, they're taking dictation from what the children are telling them. They use backgrounds that reflected the books that they used. They used the books and they used docu-cameras that were donated by the School of Education to read their books. And they also created some props, such as the posters that you see here. The students were able to reflect on their experience right after class, and they were able to write about the kinds of things that they experienced teaching virtually, but also as they were interacting with the children.
So one of the ways that the students were able to assess their learning from the service learning virtual student teaching experience was completing a final assignment that's called a learning story, which is a formative assessment primarily used in New Zealand, but it's also used here in the United States. So students wrote learning stories to the children about what they saw and observed the children doing during the lesson. So a learning story is generally written to a child. It tells a story, so it's a narrative written to the child, and the student would describe what learning was happening that they saw in that observation. And they would also make recommendations for further learning to continue their curriculum planning. And then when they were done writing the learning story, they would ask parents, the child, and also community members to respond. So a learning story is a formative assessment that the students wrote to assess their experience with service learning.
Now this slide and the following slide are examples of learning stories that our students wrote to the children in our virtual learning program this semester. And so you can see there is space for the student to describe the observation and what's happening here, the learning that's taken place, and then opportunities and possibilities. She also connects to the Common Core standards because this child was of school age, and has some images from our virtual learning program. We tried to not include faces of children for privacy, but you can see the guacamole on the upper left-hand corner and this child sharing the recipe that they made. And the screenshots on the right are of the teacher actually working with the children and showing them how to make guacamole. The following slide has, again, another example from a week that we also made guacamole. And you can see on the right-hand side, we have a student response from this child. He drew this avocado and wrote this sentence in his writer's workshop that night. And his family sent the screenshot or sent an image of this to us, to the student, to be able to place on her learning story as part of the response to the learning story. So you can see it comes full circle with the learning, the parent response. Here we even have one of the peers response and the parent and a child all on the same page.
One of the very important components of the program to see how successful it was to hear the parents' comments. Here you can see Laurentina, one of the mothers of two children that participated in the program, thanking the students for their time and for teaching them how to cook, but also how to read and how to entice children to read. In this slide, we have Sophie, and we hear in Sophie's voice the impact of the program in her experience.
My name is Sophie Janessa Morones, and I like about the classes is that they read books to us and that we play games, and that what I've been learning is how people make fun. My name is Sophie Janessa.
So there's so many benefits to service learning. For us specifically, we experienced a lot of challenges, of course, with COVID and having to have our students learn how to teach virtually and work with young children and to engage with the community partners virtually. And yes, there was challenges for us learning in a virtual world with internet connections. We found the challenges of working in a large group with classmates because they all worked together in groups. Also, children just not being familiar with Zoom functions, where that was another challenge we encountered. And also for our students to be, for their very first experience of becoming virtual instructors. So all of those were things that we encountered this past year. However, they don't outweigh our successes. We found that the benefits and the joy that we had in collaborating not only with each other, with the students, with our partners, with the children and families, but that all of it was made possible and was so important because ultimately it was the children's engagement and being with the children virtually, and for the students to feel that connection and the children not to feel that isolation that we've been experiencing this past year. So those were very meaningful connections that we found with the children and with each other. We learned a lot. We learned a lot of tricks and tips to help make virtual teaching not only easy but fun. And it was such an enjoyable experience. And we can't thank the Center for Community Engagement enough for their support, and for our University of the School of Ed, to our dean, to our community partners, and to our students, and to the children and families for their participation in this service learning experience. Thank you.